We're so done with new year, new you. This year, it's more you on Bumble. More of you shamelessly sending playlists, especially that one filled with show tunes. More of you finding Geminis because you know you always like them. More of you dating with intention because you know what you want. And you know what? We love that for you. Someone else will too. Be more you this year and find them on Bumble.
I think I just won my taxes.
Yeah?
I just switched to H&R Block in about 1 minute. All I had to do was drag and drop last year's return into H&R Block, and bam, my information is automatically there.
So I don't have to go digging around for all my old papers to switch?
Nope.
Sounds like we just leveled up our tax game.
Switching to H&R Block is easy. Just drag and drop your last return. It's better with Block.
Welcome to episode 34 of the LSQ podcast. Thanks for pressing play. I'm Jenny LSQ, and this is really truly a special episode for me because it features an interview with one of my all-time favorite artists, Pavement's Stephen Malkmus. OMG. I tried not to geek out too hard, but interviewing Stephen Malkmus, it's up there with, like, if I got to interview Bob Dylan or Jerry Seinfeld or something. Anyhow, this episode also features some excerpts from an interview I had on the podcast early on with Angel Olsen, because she does have a new album coming out soon. I was lucky enough to hear it in advance, and I can tell you it's brilliant, remarkable, dramatic, all of the things you want from Angel, but even better than you've heard before. I'm excited to have a little bit of that 2018 interview with Angel after the interview you're about to hear with Malkmus. We met up in Los Angeles when he was on tour supporting his new solo album, Groove Denied, a foray into electronic music. Let's listen. I was intrigued at last night's fantastic show at the Lodge Room, Stephen Malkmus, to see you play entirely on your own, which I've never seen before. And I wonder how much that process of you with the guitar and the laptop and stuff like that mirrors what you're doing when you're beginning to work on songs. I mean, is that sort of what it looks like?
It's kind of like one last overdub over the over a track and when I'm recording, I suppose. But it's also geared to be a concert within my amount of time frame of preparation and to the best of my ability could make any record. You also try to make 45 minutes of entertainment or something, but yeah, so I kind of gig the backing tracks or take away or decide which way to do a song so that it doesn't get too samey, which it does at times. There's certain tracks that are more karaoke-ish, and there's some that I loop and deconstruct.
It works well with the Groove Denied stuff because that's stuff that you made using automation anyway, right? So
I could take some songs, I separated the tracks, some I just make a loop and add some effects on it, or just kind of, remix it, I guess, in a certain way.
Is it fun to play that way, the way that just sort of up there by yourself?
It's a challenge. It's a different kind of challenge. I don't know if it's some of the songs it's more fun. The ones that are better, probably, that work better. Some of them, like when I said that karaoke attitude, it's okay, but like you'd much rather have a band, or it's like, how do you do having the interaction, and touring in general with people is better because it's nothing that I think I could do for eternity, and that's why people don't really, you maybe do some solo shows now and then, but then
because it's just less fun, or the camaraderie or something?
There's just less to bounce off, and you feel a little bit probably like a comedian feels or something when you go on the road and you're just by yourself, and probably more opportunity to get in your own head in a little weird way. But if keep it short
And this is the end of tonight's the last show.
Yeah, this is the last one. It was a pretty fast run, and I like playing the solo electric acoustic style Pavement songs that way. It's nice to connect and also imagine those songs as just the songwriter and his voice, and have a mix of that. But if I did a whole hour like that, it could be good too, but I think I wanted to have some, noise and just variety.
Was this truly the first time you've done this kind of a setup for
a tour? Definitely not with a laptop. I've done a couple of solo shows, like at a noise pop thing. I did a acoustic at the Great American, just playing Pavement, everything, whatever I could play. The time I played at a Pitchfork festival like that. This is more conceived a tiny bit. Like I had to rehearse, and I had to conceptualize it more than that's not just playing songs. It's not conceptualizing. It's just remembering the lyrics and like trying to do it right.
You appeared to be having fun.
Yeah.
As an audience member doing, there was good feedback. There's something as well about just sort of like the audience being able to take in the subtlety, like the more kind of humor of just the movement or the switching around, the shifts or things happening suddenly or whatever. Is like when it's just you, it's like the sort of the humor of it is a little bit more.
That's true.
Apparent.
I mean, if there's good feedback, like last night was, I'm getting a little better at it. I'm not saying like that was, it's baby steps towards when I first did it couple weeks ago in Toronto, and I was still sitting down, or I played the kitchen 2 shows. It was like low volume there, and it was kind of awkward feeling in the kitchen. And I'm old enough not to I can shake it off in the moment,
right?
That it's like not like what I wanted it to be, or I didn't have fun. But yeah, when it's kind of people are liking it, plus I'm doing in-ear monitors, not that it needs to be really said, but it creates a it's not a distance, but you can get in your own. I think it's not bad for being the solo person to take them off and put them on, because you can kind of go into the
isolation
music, and then you're like in a band in your head more than what you sometimes need to do as a self-preservation thing, rather than being completely present in a naked. When you're in a band with 4 people, you always have, hypothetically, people are looking the other way at the drummer or listening to what they play, and makes it a little freer feeling.
Wait, would you tour if you didn't quote unquote have to? Or do you tour when you enjoy it, or is it sort of a necessary evil as a recording artist?
No, it is a way to monetize the effort that goes directly to you, not through a record label and like Spotify taking everything, and that is a chance to but I don't think I would want to stay home 24/7 for eternity. I'm used to it now after 30 years of going out, and it's like staying active or being sounds like a retirement.
To call, fun sounds shallow. I don't want to keep repeating the word fun, because there's something people think of as shallow about fun. But yeah, when did making songs first feel fun to you? When did you start to get that tingle?
Well, I always liked it when I was a young person, just like writing short stories, or in my room, it's like playing basketball games and pretending like I was the other players or something, like in your fantasy world. So music for me was a little like that. You make a band name, or you imagine that you're doing something, and then...
Did you always imagine you were the singer?
No, I'm not. No, that came later because of... it's when you're songwriting, I wouldn't think of the same. I would just be like a dude in a band. Who's the guitar and maybe singing, but not it's not really like that. You're just kind of playing a part. It's not like you're looking out from yourself. You're not looking back at yourself, that kind of imagining. It's sort of going out.
Right, you're putting on the you're putting on the mask.
Yeah, it's like a play thing. And then when people when there was some friends saying like those are good or you have talent, and
they would say you have talent. They would say
that felt good.
Yeah,
So also that happened, and not to a level of like to make records or anything. That was just kind of realizing that it comes to you.
So how early was that?
Well, in the punk band, I was doing it. I was in a punk band in high school, and they needed new material because...
The Straw Dogs, is this?
Yeah, at first they were called the Young Pioneers. I wasn't in it, and they had some people leave the band, and half of them started a new band, Straw Dogs, and we inherited most of their material, but we decided we got to make some new songs, and I don't know. I just said, how about this? They're really silly songs, but... I just cranked them out and we played them. And then that came and went. And then during college times, I was maybe just doing covers more.
But you already had a sense that it kind of came naturally to you when you were doing it.
Well, yeah, I guess I was compelled to do it because I did do this group called the Lake Speed with at the senior year. One of my friends who was in a Grateful Dead cover band that played in frats. They were called the Skull Tones. His name was Scott Blenn, and he also ended up doing the videos of Range Life. And he was like a Roman Polanski film fan, and he like a music fan of all genres. Like whatever Rolling Stone magazine said have 5 stars, he liked, or he would buy.
Right.
Whether it was Bon Jovi or the Replacements, or there was this blue Rolling Stone record guide that Led Zeppelin were only 1 star and stuff for 2 stars, but that's been a revision. And Black Sabbath and stuff were low rated, so he didn't like them, but he would have to now. At any rate, he became a bass player. He was my roommate, and I was like, we just made a band just to make an album right before college ended. It was like just a grab bag of all the indie rock of the time, Husker Du and Camper Van Beethoven and the Minutemen and Velvet Underground, and kind of mainstream indie that I liked. And so I made that album with them like in 2 days, but we never put it out. But it was done in a studio, and then so I was like, okay, I can do that.
Yeah.
But I just got to not do something so derivative of cooler things. So that's what we did.
When did you start to gravitate toward music that wasn't mainstream, or that wasn't what you were hearing on the radio?
Well, it was always, we thought it was not mainstream, even when it was like Devo and the B-52s and Sex Pistols. I mean, I liked all those groups, and even Kiss seemed to be anti-authoritarian and kind of like edgy, to a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
So I guess I always liked that kind of music. I also loved the Doors. Thought the Doors were like the best band, at least their first album, and Waiting for the Sun, Creedence Clearwater Revival. I like some of those groups, and Hendrix, I guess, but Stones. But I mean, most all those bands, when they were popular, but they're kind of edgy, I guess.
Yeah. Did you have siblings or just older friends who kind of introduced you to stuff, or were you just kind of finding on your own?
Devo, I think I just found on Saturday Night Live, or we all just found it. There was no...
Yeah, it was everywhere.
More like there was like Grateful Dead and Little Feat, and some of my older cousins like that, and I didn't like that because it sounded like tuneless to me, at that age.
Yeah, it's interesting because I understand that you've become a Grateful Dead fan.
I like them, yeah.
Not a Deadhead per se, but a Grateful Dead fan in more recent years. And I remember as a kid, I didn't know why I didn't like the Dead. I just knew I wasn't supposed to like that if I liked Nirvana, say, even, or...
Their cover art is also repulsive, and like Judas Priest I could never like for that reason, because their imagery, I mean, I hate to be biased by the packaging, but I was like, ugh, I could never. Plus they're called Judas Priest. That seems so weird to me. I mean, I totally respect Rob Halford and everything they did, but it was like, no way. I a no-go zone. Same with the Grateful Dead cover art. And
did you feel like the things that you loved the most were things that hit you on like an emotional level or a visceral level or something, or more aesthetic?
Like catchy songs. I mean, I like the songs that catch. It was a whole package, but I guess I like the catchier bands. To me, like Devo or the B-52s are much more catchy than the Clash. I guess on what is it, the double album, they're pretty catchy. But like Give 'Em Enough Rope and the first album, I did not like it. I like the Sex Pistols though. That was a little bit slow and AOR sounding, but I still reacted to those songs really strongly.
What about the Beatles?
I like them too.
Right.
I like the Stones better, like back then. But if everyone loves the Beatles, but the Stones were more like it was all the bargain, the $3.99 albums, like English Newest Hits Makers and 12 by 5. Like those were cutouts at our record store, and I could afford them.
Right.
So I didn't like Exile and Mainstream yet, and I probably wouldn't have. I liked those R&B ones more at that age.
Right. Yeah, it's hard as a kid not to just be drawn instinctively to the stuff that's the most catchy. And I mean, I've read things you've said about this recently, sorta. About like observing what your kids like and what music they're drawn to. Do you see through your kids they're just sort of innately drawn to the catchiest shit?
Yeah, I mean, they see things in it though that are also beyond catchy. I don't know. It's catchy, but it also has some sort of Pied Piper thing in the EQ or in the emotion that's, I can't call it catchy really. Whatever, it's like Billie Eilish and Frank Ocean. They like the person too. I mean, it's much more about individuals, as you probably notice the music world going that way too quite often. Think about Matador, like almost all their artists now, they just focus on the one person. There's Kurt Weill, but yeah, there's a violators, Lucy Dacus, there's Julianne Baker, there's Snail Mail. It has a name, but it's just her, so it's like they identify with the person. And rap music kind of led that charge too, as hip hop.
But also, I guess just because they're, for their generation, it's like you have to be willing to be an individual in front of the camera on your phone at all times, and you can't fit a whole band in that selfie frame. So one person immediately steps forward as like the one you care about. Like, I mean, it hasn't harmed BTS.
And all bands, they're like a collective, or Brockhampton, or
where each one of them on their own, and they're like, your favorite Power Ranger or whatever.
Call it a band, Odd Future, but it never what it's like we're a team of atomized mini capitalists. So yeah, there's like U2 and that model. Of course it exists. Like I saw this band Cage the Elephant or something. But even to me, a band like, I am susceptible to that, where I just when I see a band, I'm just like, oh, it's just a bunch of guys, or it's like Queen of the Stone Age is Josh Homme, and like whoever it is, and it's obvious in their photos, but he still calls it Queen of the Stone Age. I don't know. There's less of the gangy things. I guess in punk, like the Priests, there's a lot of things I can think of that are bands.
Well, yeah, people want to, just in doing interviews, it's easier to separate out the one person who everyone knows is the one person who does like a lot of the heavy lifting, and that's the person that you talk to every time, and the other people are okay with that you're not, which is not how you think of, even like the bands that mattered most to me when I was getting into indie music, and you think like, oh yeah, everyone knew that Lou and Jay didn't get along, but you didn't think only one of them mattered, if you cared about that kind of shit or something, or
they're Dino.
But the same thing with Pavement as well. It's just like, okay, well, this is this. If it's not this combination of people, then that's what I'm listening to is this combo. I know that, for the Pavement records, the process in the studio was a lot of improvising and a lot of like going with first takes and that kind of thing. Was there a point, or has there been a point when you kind of adapted your songwriting process on your own so that there's more preparation in advance? I know you have like the basement at home now you go
mix
to.
of things. Like it can be some things come. I mean, like solos and stuff. They're actually less planned than even. I mean, some of the Pavement ones, were like, I would take a while to figure out what I was going to play. And now sometimes I just rip it. I'm just like, I'm going to rip this one out, and we'll just keep that one. But songwriting is a different story. I would say that just because of technology and knowledge I wouldn't have even really thought to make a demo beyond a cassette, playing in a cassette, maybe back then. And now there's more ability to make 4 parts and try some other instruments, and there's more time to kick. It just feels like more time to kick around, just go down in the basement and kick some ideas around where there was, I didn't have a studio then, and I would just wait to go to the studio to do it. And that's something, I kind of did that on Groove Denied, even though it was my own studio. It was more like that style of doing the first thing and seeing where it comes, not doing it again, for better or worse. And I know a lot of artists would probably concur that it would be nice not to do the accidents that happened that first time through, and you're making it, not only are they good, but also you're not like competing with this other thing in your mind that you're trying to get to, and they call that demo-itis or something, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it's always with creative stuff, like where do you calling bullshit on yourself about like, I'm just being lazy and I could improve this, versus like, I'm gonna micromanage the life out of it if I take too many passes.
Mixing, you can really post-production or you can go. It's so easy to do a mix on Pro Tools and just change everything, and then you can go down a wormhole and keep doing it much easier than you could back when it's going down to tape, where it took 3 minutes to actually record it and then listen back to it. And I've heard stories, just letting your mixing engineer go crazy on the bass sound and just getting worse and worse over two days, or
right.
Because it's only just your time. It's not like it's just labor. It's not money.
Have you found with your favorite songs of yours, the ones that still feel really good to play, or that the newer ones that feel good, that there is a certain feeling you get when they're first coming out of you that you kind of recognize?
Well, that's what leads you to continue on with them, to take them to fruition, I suppose.
Sometimes you continue on when you don't feel that feeling, but you just think this is an idea worth pursuing.
Other people might liked it a little bit, or you might not know.
What would be an example of a song of yours that felt really good immediately and that you still feel good about?
Well, I mean, lots of them. Often they're the ones probably that are a little more surprising in their than their final incarnation, where like it's hard to spot the references of what you were going for.
Right.
Like but also ones that are like Trigger Cut or something, the first Pavement album. I mean, that's like pretty, sounds a little like Jim Croce, or it just does the same thing over and over again, but like I still like it, it's like it came out better than I thought it would. Some of them that happens too, just through your age, or that's more with the younger ones. A lot of things, because you had a real low bass line back then and more energy, so if it comes out of the speakers like I sound like a band, or we sound like a band, that's really
Yay.
I can't believe it. You know, it's like you kind of are conceptualizing it. And you get older, you still get a little dopamine rush from hearing it come out, and like it sort of sounds valid. If the engineer did a good job and you recorded it, and but it's a little watered down. You know, it's not as exciting. That's just the way. The highs are not as high and the lows aren't as low. I guess that's growing older.
Deal with it, young people who don't understand yet. With your lyric writing process, is that something that's changed at all over time, or that you've stepped back from to look at, like, how do I do this, or do I want to do this differently at all?
I try to do it differently, but I still don't really know what I'm doing. Like, I just some stuff just comes from the subconscious, and basically all of it really does come, like, I don't know where it really comes from. I mean, I might be reaching for a theme, but the actual words that come out and how they come out, I'm not, even with editing and a little more awareness about what I've already done. I mean, it's still, I don't really know what's going on
until it's coming out of your mouth.
I just don't know if it's really good either. You know, like I think with riffs and a couple of counter melodies, I feel like I have a sort of you have a soundtrack of life in your mind and everything you like, and I think I can weed through there and say, like, this is like a good version of me, and it's like in the spirit of what I like, but it doesn't sound like it exactly. And I'm pretty solid with the music. I think it doesn't always connect, but lyrics, I don't know. So I think some people, the few that really identify as lyricists, I mean, it's a tricky thing to really own that too, because you can look at other people's lyrics and they can seem really shit, like if you want, I mean, I feel there's more bias, there's more you can just be like, unless you have to listen to the whole song, it's probably fine. But if I see a review and they like quote some lyrics, I'm almost always like, whatever, those are like,
right.
Except someone like Smog or something, like he has a Zen Cohen-esque clever things he writes. I always like those or something, but
right.
Those wouldn't work with these other bands' music anyway, probably, even though they didn't think of it, but you know what I mean? So
right.
Things but they're taken out. I'm just like, oh, those just more words.
Right.
All right.
Right.
I know there's just more music too, but I can get more emotional about just more music, or it just if it hits me the right way.
Is there stuff that, whether it's stuff your kids listen to or just stuff because it seems like you try to keep up with all the shit, the kids shit too, like, is there stuff that you really like that you've heard in the past few years?
Things?
Yeah, new things.
I mean, I love Frank Ocean. We listen to him all the time, and I don't really get tired. Like, his rap on Nikes, like, it's just like one of the best raps ever as far as I'm concerned. Just the flow, the way his voice sounds and the flow, it's like hard to I don't get tired of it. That's a song you think you might get tired of or something, but I don't. But there is something to be said for songs that you don't get tired of. I like that, but I told her about that.
You told your daughter about Frank Ocean.
Yeah, and she just really likes it. She likes. I don't love the new Billy as much as I think I'm supposed to. She's also almost like just into Billy now. It doesn't even matter about the music,
Yeah.
It's like at that stage, just likes her.
Right.
And so I can't even tell if there's like almost not a value judgment on the music once you're in full throes of fandom.
Yeah.
Which is nice,
Totally. And I mean,
she just likes
I
her.
like Billie Eilish. I like that she's, I feel like all other things being equal, yes, great. If Billie Eilish is an icon for young people,
I agree.
In North America currently, that seems good to me.
Yeah, she found it somehow. I mean, whether it was on Instagram or It wasn't through a friend. It was some sort of signal being sent out, that she gravitated towards, and her and many others have their own journey.
What about some of the more recent, like, big indie artists, like Vampire Weekend or Mac DeMarco?
Would they like? She doesn't like that.
No, I mean you.
Me? I like both. Vampire Weekend. It's sort of like giving a presidential, like an endorsement or something. I basically endorsed the band without like endorsing all their programs.
Yeah.
So I think they're a good thing. I think they're clever guys, and Mac DeMarco, a couple good songs I've heard, maybe more. He's
Mac DeMarco is the most from his generation that reminds me more of sort of like the old school zone of not giving a fuck, of just being laid back.
He has a song called "The Viceroys," and that's what Bob used to smoke from Pavement. So I always think of that when I hear that song. Ode to the Viceroys. I haven't met him yet, and I haven't seen him play. I've seen Vampire Weekend at Primavera, and Ezra was hanging around in his khaki Bermuda shorts, and I didn't talk to him. I probably should have.
He's a lovely dude.
That was back in the day. Relative to Vampire Weekend's day. It's like 2010 or something. I don't know.
Was there ever a moment when it was by the standard of the day blowing up, when Cut Your Hair was on, was on MT on 120 Minutes and stuff? Did you ever have a moment where you thought, should I amp up the ambition on this or something? Should I do stuff that feels uncomfortable for some reason or another? And did you do stuff that felt uncomfortable at that time?
Not really. And we didn't. I didn't really want to work with a producer. So as far as that's the main thing that's going on, is making music, and I was feeling confident that I could do it myself, like produce it myself. So that being said, I needed someone to mix it with me. I knew that I was not good enough to. After doing Slant Enchanted with Gary and Scott, I like how that sounded, but I didn't want my whole work to sound like that. So I had to get like a technical person in there and make it sound like better, not knowing like what it was going to sound like, just better.
Right.
So it's partial commercial concern after the fact, because it made it more approachable, but I also wanted that. So there was no like dialing in which songs could be sing, and maybe Terror Twilight. We did do this like Major League song that got watered down because we thought it could be a catchy song. That was a little bit commercial, but that was like almost at the end. I'm saying those are a couple of times where there was a little bit like we should try to have a single or something.
Right, but there wasn't like a lot of sort of like having to deal with sort of like, oh, that's creepy commercial
really.
creepy.
We went on MTV. I didn't want to go on MTV really at that time. I shouldn't have gone on there to have a talk, because it seemed like kind of a commercial thing that I was not. But I should have just not gone on there if I thought that. And there's also a certain like thinking you could have your cake and eat it too. Once people like the other records, and people like Nirvana was like selling a lot of being the biggest band in the world. It's like, well, we don't have to. It's just gonna be kind of, if you just act kind of punk and don't care, you don't have to do that stuff, and that's the right attitude, and that's how a rock band should be.
Yeah.
That's how the Sex Pistols or the Replacements, or these certain artists that thumb their nose at authority, and that appealed to us more than being like the nice Beatles when they first started.
What appeals to you most about it now, about just doing what you do? What aspects of it do you enjoy the most? And can you picture a life where you don't put out records for the public.
When it's coming out, and once making the stuff, a lot of moments, recording and having a couple of your friends like it, so getting approval from peers and then also the rest of my in-group, when they like it, that feels good too. When people get to hear it and they're like, I really am enjoying having you in my life and listening to it. It's, it means a lot to me. We're connecting. I like that. I can't deny it.
Which that's still the same as when you started, kind of, huh?
Yeah, it's fun when people dig it. It's like, you feel like there's a world that you're part of, and not just as a fan, which I'm that too, but I like to go see bands, and when they're really good, I like to go up and say, like that was really good. Like I love what you did today. And so I also like to get that approval too now and then.
So for anyone listening, in the nicest way,
I don't need any people that go up and say that, you know what I mean? But
yeah.
it can be felt or whatever. We're all fans because we like to relate to something, and like we would like to give our stamp of approval. It's like it feels good to say like, I like this, I really like you. I don't know. So
that is literally the only thing I do with my time is go around saying, I like this. I'm not sure about this. I'll give it a try. This I will never not love. Deal with it.
Yeah, right.
And your music, sir, I will never not love. So thank you so much for taking the time to meet here in downtown Los Angeles while you're here.
That's right.
It's awesome talking to you.
Yep. Talking to you too, Jenny.
Cheers. If I could go back in time to like 1992 and find little baby indie rock Jenny and tell her that someday she's going to get to interview Stephen Malkmus for her very own podcast, I wouldn't have believed me. I mean, first I'd have made me explain what a podcast is, and then I'd have been like, no way. But yes way. Thanks again to Stephen Malkmus, who still seems kind of unknowable, but in a way that I dig. And you know what? There's more in episode 34. Angel Olsen has an amazing new album called All Mirrors coming out October 4th. And I wanted to play you some excerpts from my interview with her from last year. One of the early episodes of the podcast, episode 6, is a nice long conversation with Angel about her creative journey. And I'm going to play some highlights, starting with Angel talking about, kind of her teenage musical leanings. But, of course, you can look for the entire episode earlier in the feed, and I hope you will do so. Let's get it going.
I like to tell the story because it's like freshman year, private school, cheerleader for a very small, might as well be homeschool size classrooms because it was 25 people to a class.
Oh, wow.
So I was a cheerleader for a basketball team at this very small private school. And then that year, I think I got pneumonia, and I kind of like lost a lot of weight, and they wanted to throw me up in the air, and I was like, fuck that, I can't do that. And I'm not going up there, you know?
Like, I'll throw up in the air.
Yeah, so I quit, and I joined like a ska punk band called Good Fight, and I would go to these like shows all the time. There was this place called the Creepy Crawl, which I don't think exists in St. Louis anymore, but it was pretty gross. Like, it was a pretty gross place to go. But yeah, so I got connected with all these kids, and then there was this music scene website called STL Punk, which is like it was like a functioning or a St. Louis version of Facebook before Facebook had exploded.
Okay.
And you could find out where bands were playing, if they were playing house shows, where the locations were, and everybody had a profile, so you could see like who was in what band. And so it was like this early network, and we would find shows, me and my friends from school. So within a year, I was like ex-cheerleader. Now I like wanted to dye my hair and like, go through all this stuff. And I was singing in this band trying to be like, kind of like Gwen Stefani meets, I don't know, Sublime or something with like punk.
And had you started playing an instrument yet at that point?
No, I was playing piano, like going to lessons. I think I probably quit around then. And then I started playing guitar, and that's when I discovered independent music, and listened to a lot of Stereolab and Broadcast and Mount Erie and Yola Tango, and then that's when things sort of opened up, and I realized there was old music, which I always loved, but there was this other kind of music out there that was lyric driven and really strange, and I wanted to explore that. So playing guitar, writing my first songs, probably around 16 or 17.
Imagine what's possible when learning doesn't get in the way of life. At Capella University, our game-changing FlexPath learning format lets you set your own deadlines so you can learn at a time and pace that works for you. It's an education you can tailor to your schedule. That means you don't have to put your life on hold to pursue your professional goals. Instead, enjoy learning your way and earn your degree without missing a beat. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. From streaming to shopping, Prime helps you get more out of your passions. So whether you're a fan of true crime or prefer a nail-biting novel from time to time, with services like Prime Video, Amazon Music, and fast free delivery, Prime makes it easy to get more out of whatever you're into or getting into. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to learn more.
Like some of the stuff I was talking about, I was like, I was 23 years old. What could I have been going through that was really like inspiring me to write this song? But
there's something pure in that, though, obviously.
Here's the thing, like people, you revisit your old work and it's almost like you're listening to a stranger because you've changed so much sometimes since that period. So, I don't remember what the songs were about necessarily, but I remember like trying that thing with my voice that I find to be annoying now, But I found it interesting because if I hadn't gone through that period of time, I wouldn't have found what I like and what I hate. And, I'm sure in 5 years I'll look back at a record that I did, My Woman or a previous record and be like, this sucks. Maybe.
It's one of the things you got to admire about good old Robert Zimmerman. And the fact that he made Nashville Skyline just decided to sound like Kermit the Frog for an album and just like, let's just, I'm already famous. Let me just sing in a weird falsetto.
Yeah. I mean, you want to try new things.
You gotta.
I feel like, I don't know when I exactly found.
But you're a technically gifted singer. I mean, you have a good tone and good pitch and that kind of thing. That just
I'm pretty good.
Must have been I
decided to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But you weren't like singing in the chorus or something like as a little kid.
I mean, I was, but I always just thought the old ladies that came up to me at church or wherever were just being nice.
Right.
And then eventually. Playing these house shows, it was really inspiring because it was the first time I got that kind of attention, and people would come up after the show and ask me if I had any CDs, and I'd be like, I don't know, I don't have any CDs, So I started making mix CDs for people and giving them away.
But I also feel like, again, considering that we've hung out a little bit before this interview, you're a funny person. You've got a good sense of humor.
You're funny.
Yeah. You are a funny person. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, obviously a song like Shut Up, Kiss Me is funny.
Yeah.
But this, My Woman does seem like there's more of like that aspect of your personality coming through. And then watching the first time I ever saw you play a headlining show was just at that show in New York at fucking... in East Williamsburg.
Recently.
Brooklyn Steel, right.
Steel.
That was the first headlining show I'd seen you play ever. Yeah. And it's like, she's fucking hilarious. Like, that even just when you're just like not saying much, it's funny.
I wanted to add a sense of humor back to my work because I felt like people were starting to, I didn't mind so much the genres that people were putting me into. I just didn't want to have the reputation that people couldn't have a good time, that only sad breakup people could come to my show.
Yeah.
I was like, no, it's bigger than that, you guys. Like, you don't have to be going through a breakup. I promise, it'll be fun. But, I also, obviously I write songs that are like that, and I have accepted that about my career, but I also, I just wanted to have fun.
You've mentioned that, you've got Coachella coming up, obviously, and you're going to do some solo performances. But, I mean, 2018 in the larger sense, are you going to give yourself some time off later in the year? What kind of stuff are you looking forward to doing just between now and when you feel enough of the urge to go back into the studio again to start doing that?
Yeah, it's so hard for me to imagine what the studio even looks like, the next one that I'm going to go into.
Yeah.
I've never been a person who works with the same producer twice, but I'm curious. Yeah, I'm curious what it would be like. I think we all kind of need a break.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to see what playing the solo material is like, and what I sort of, through revisiting that, what is on my mind, and how will I approach the next thing that I'm doing? Because I have been writing. I've been writing sort of as an exercise. I've been writing about a fake band, and I have this idea to write songs for the fake band and everything. But
yeah.
I don't know what to do with it. It could just be an exercise, and then I just want to get into the practice of writing in general, not necessarily music. So there could be something later in life where I do something with that. But at the moment, I'm just trying to chill, because there's just a lot of reflection that needs to be done about what just happened.
But it must be exciting just to know that you know, that it's now reached a level where people are going to be stoked whatever the next thing is.
Yeah.
They're there.
It's weird. I don't ever really think about it like I did all this stuff. It's like a package in space. Like it's all, I did it. I always kind of feel like there's something I have to, like there's more work to be done, and I could do it differently and better the next time,
And of course, now we've almost arrived at Angel's next thing. Her album All Mirrors comes out on October 4th, and she's going to be touring extensively this fall in North America and beyond. And that brings us to the end of episode 34. Thank you so much again to Stephen Malkmus and to Angel Olsen, and to you for listening. Episode 35, out in a couple of weeks, features an interview with Devendra Banhart. And I hope you'll subscribe if you haven't done that yet. Plus, you can reach me with feedback at Jenny LSQ.